It just does not get old. I'm at PBI, I'm going to LGA, and I am going to love my experience, I know right away. I've got this bus ride to the terminal all to myself, and I've strategically taken a seat in the back to face forward so I can see out of both windows. Those inward-facing seats only allow you to see out the opposite window. Well, there's an airport out there, and planes are flying, so why look inward when you can look out? I'll be looking out all night on my flight too. All right, everybody, I'm back at PBI for my next flight up to LGA. I'm super excited as always. Today, my seat is in the first class section of the A319. Now, the reason why I'm in first class is because I'm using an upgrade certificate. I did not pay for it. I didn't get upgraded via the natural process. I just applied an upgrade certificate as a platinum medallion. Now, by having this first class seat, I'm not selecting it just because I want to be in first class. I'm just taking advantage of what Delta is offering to me because in the future, I'm going to get a lower status and I won't have this upgrade certificate available. My seat is on the right-hand side of the aircraft because that's all that was available to me. So I am seated in the second row on the right-hand side on the A319. Lately, this flight has been operated by a Boeing 737-800, so it's nice to see a smaller aircraft, although the windows are a little bit too small for me on the Airbus. The inbound aircraft is coming today from JFK. Usually I see flights coming from LaGuardia, but it's the same market basically. The flight is landing ahead of schedule. Hopefully we depart on time. And the aircraft is super, super empty. There are about 60 available seats on this aircraft today. Here it is. While I can get a decent side view of this plane, there's a Chili's blocking the direct view of my aircraft. That's the best nose-on view I can get today. I've never left from this gate before, and I'm not a fan unless I was eating there, of course. But I'm getting dinner on flight 2139, and I just can't wait to head over to LGA. I do have some really good news. The winds are favorable for runway 22 being the arrival runway and runway 13 being the departure runway. I'm on the right side of the plane. Let's hope we fly up the Hudson. With departures off of runway 13 occupying LaGuardia's eastern airspace, New York approach control will keep us in LaGuardia's western airspace before turning around to land on runway 22. I just hope we get vectors west of Manhattan so I can see it on the right side. Welcome aboard this A319 with a lot of condensation inside. All right, looking good here aboard the A319. 2 windows. But will the 2 windows give me one Manhattan view? I'm more interested in that than my first class pre-departure beverage. I'd rather be served a good view. I mean, I have 2 windows. Here's the route of flight from PBI to LGA, and I rarely show inside the cabin, but this phenomenon due to the air conditions was quite interesting. With a really light load, this plane boarded quickly and was set up quickly for the pushback onto the airline terminal ramp. Let's move backward under tow now so we can start this journey. Well, we pushed back a few inches and then we moved forward a few inches. It's not a good sign. All right, we pushed back and we went back to the gate and they opened up the door and now the pilot's off of the airplane. Well, they just deplaned 2 passengers, so I'm not exactly sure what's going on.
Flight 2's armed doors to departure. Cross-check and all-call, please.
Okay, attempt number 2 at pushing back. Okay, well, this flight is ready to call ground control for taxi clearance to runway 10 left. It's hard to hear, but the controller clears our flight to the runway via taxiway Charlie, crossing runway 14 along the way.
Delta 2139, ready to taxi with Golf.
Delta 2139, Rocky via crossing 10 left.
Really cross 110, 2139.
We're now on the tower frequency and are ready for our takeoff clearance. But before we move forward, it's time for a message from the sponsor of today's video, Exter. Exter wallets come in a variety of shapes and sizes and colors. This one actually glows in the dark. With durable wallets and card holders, the value derived from Exter is unmatched. I always carry an Exter wallet with me, and I know I'll never lose it because I can add an air tag to it. Check out their site. They have lots of awesome products. And as a viewer of this channel, if you enter code MASELA at checkout, you'll save. Visit the link in the description below.
Tower Delta 2139 or holding short of 10 left.
Delta 130, check out the south runway, no factor, runway 10 left, let's take.
One clear for takeoff, 2139.
That transmission was a little bit broken, but with no traffic, we're clear for takeoff right away from the tower controller. We're now on runway 10 left and have 10,000 feet available to us to send us in the air toward LaGuardia. With no crying kids this time, let's listen in to the engine sounds in front of the engines as we roll. It's now time for the handoff to departure control.
No time contact.
Ready departure Delta 29. Departure Delta 9,008, climbing via 2.
Delta 2139, publish departure, where to contact.
We're climbing on the standard slides departure procedure, and there really isn't much ATC chatter while doing so. The airspace is rather quiet this evening, and our flight deck crew simply follows the published departure procedure, which calls for us to fly straight out over the Atlantic, then turn to the left to the northeast.
The 21 Miami 2.15.
3215-139.
We've been handed off to Miami Center, but for this video, we'll resume air traffic control on arrival. For now, the right side of the plane provides views of Freeport in the Bahamas. With little to see on this side of the plane and no air traffic out the window, I received and ate a big meal from the flight attendant.
My neighbor didn't want their food, so it's double food for me.
That's right, I had both the pizza and the pasta. It came with 2 salads and 2 tiramisus. It was very good, but you can find other channels on YouTube if you want first-class food reviews.
Okay, we're over the land now, but it's cloudy out there. Can't see much.
Well, I saw a few things, but it wasn't easy. The highlight was this 767 of FedEx flying from Norfolk to Memphis. It's time for the proud arrival for arrivals from the south like us.
We're descending.
The plan is to head to the end of the arrival procedure, then get radar vectors to the runway 22 final approach course. The approach controller will assign headings for the downwind and right base leg. In the meantime, that's a nice view of Dover Air Force Base down there. And here's Vineland, New Jersey. We're descending on the proud arrival, and it's now time to check in with New York Approach Control, the air traffic control facility that will handle us down into the terminal airspace of New York City.
Approach Delta 2139, 12,800, descend to the proud to that approach.
Delta 2139, your approach. Charlie is current, 300 knots or greater.
300 or greater, Delta 2139.
Since there's some time to go and it's dark out, I'm not going to provide all transmissions. There's something key that I'm looking for. Once we get cleared to 4,000 feet, the controller typically assigns a heading for the downwind leg. This heading determines where we will fly northeast bound west of LaGuardia. I really want a heading that keeps us as west as possible, but that depends on the point at which it's issued. For now, we're cleared down to 4,000 feet.
Delta 2139, descend to maintain 4,000.
Descend to maintain 4,000, Delta 2139.
Fast forward a little more, and we're at the point where the controller will assign us the downwind leg heading. From this position, we'll need a heading of around 15 degrees or so to pass by Manhattan on its west side. So many planes have been given this ideal path. What will the controller give us? Well, that time has come.
Delta 2139, fighting 030.
Heading 030, Delta 2139.
I'm on the right side of this plane for the Manhattan view. Yes, the right side was the only side available, and I was grateful for that, but the 30-degree heading is going to put us right over Manhattan. I don't care about my first-class seat or meal. It was just a perk, but what's ideal about a flight for me is our route, and you can't see Manhattan when you're over it. This is not fair. Other flights got vectors up the Hudson. We didn't. Well, it is what it is, and what it is a flight to LaGuardia, and I can't wait to get out of this mess up here. It should be better up ahead, and on final, planes are being cleared for visual approaches to runway 22. I'll let you listen into all ATC transmissions on this frequency, and just north of the airport, a JetBlue plane is being cleared for a visual approach to runway 22.
JetBlue 572, look for a Delta Airbus 2 o'clock in 4, sending out of 2.
Insight, JetBlue 572.
JetBlue 572, follow traffic, coverage approach runway 22, the tower's 18.7.
Go ahead and over to tower, clear visual, JetBlue 572, 222, have a good night.
You too, good night.
That plane is actually following a plane ahead visually to the runway. As we come out of the clouds, we're already in New York City over upper New York Bay, looking at Brooklyn, and sadly, we're on that 30-degree heading pointed right toward the middle of Manhattan, which will overfly at 4,000 feet. The airspace that we're in is directly between Newark's airspace off to our left and JFK's airspace off to the right. There is some room, however, to our immediate right and to our left, and of course, I would have preferred to be further on the left side. On a day when all these clouds would not be in the way, sometimes the controller would even tell a pilot to just follow the Hudson River northbound. That can't be done tonight because of these clouds, but it would be ideal, although it seems to happen less and less these days. But I'm still happy I can see Brooklyn, which will eventually lead to Queens. If these clouds were not in the way, we would see JFK in the distance. The controller is now going to assign a heading to a plane behind us.
Delta 1749, fly heading 030.
Heading 030, Delta 1749.
Now, you might immediately think that that plane will fly the same path as us, but it really depends on where the plane is when the controller issued that turn. If it were further west than where we were when the turn was issued, there's a chance that 30 degrees could keep it west of Manhattan. You see, other than the final approach course, not every plane from the south is following the same exact path. In the past, I found that more planes did the same exact thing, one behind the other, but it seems to be a little bit more random nowadays, and I just don't know why. In a moment, we'll see a very small part of the east side of Manhattan, so keep your eyes on the bottom left. The dark area down there is the East River, and the land there is Manhattan Island. That bridge is the Williamsburg Bridge, connecting Williamsburg, Brooklyn to the Lower East Side. We didn't even get to see the Brooklyn Bridge or the Manhattan Bridge. We're just way too close to them. In any case, the controller is now going to give us a lower altitude, hopefully bringing us out of these scattered clouds.
Delta 2139, descend to maintain 3000.
Descend to maintain 3,000, Delta 2139.
Well, at least we get to see the East River on this 30-degree heading. Do you know New York City well? Can you name the next bridge that we should be seeing? It's a bridge that spans over Roosevelt Island. It's right down there on the left. It's the 59th Street Bridge, or the Queensboro Bridge, or the Ed Koch Bridge, whatever you want to call it. It's named for former Mayor Ed Koch, and we're headed to an airport named for former Mayor Fiorello LaGuardia. We're descending 1,000 feet, so these clouds should go away soon, but we can actually see LaGuardia Airport out there. We'll be there in around 7 or 8 minutes. Well, there goes that view. In a moment, however, we will see the next bridge, the Triborough, or RFK Bridge. It's actually 3 bridges connecting Manhattan, Queens, and the Bronx. Who knew this flight was going to be a bridge tour? Here we have a nice view of the bridges and LaGuardia Airport out there. We can see how the East River heads east by the airport, and the body of water that continues along Manhattan will be the Harlem River. This is the last of Manhattan that we see here. At the bottom, we're looking at East Harlem. We missed most of the island of Manhattan. Those tall buildings were right below us. It's now time for a new heading.
Delta 2139, fly heading 050, speed 180.
050, 180, Delta 2139.
Okay, we'll turn 20 degrees to the right and slow to 180 knots. This brings us closer to our right base leg, and we have a great view of the Bronx, which we'll be flying around. Down at the bottom of the screen is a great view of Yankee Stadium, home of the New York Yankees. Since we were cleared to 3,000 feet well over Manhattan and we're on a 50-degree heading, I don't think we'll be going out too far before we turn back around. During busy periods, planes stay at 4,000 feet well into Westchester County before getting assigned lower altitudes and turning back to the airport. Ever since we entered Brooklyn, I'm providing all transmissions with all flights on this frequency, and there's not a lot to hear. Almost everyone is behind us now and outside of the city. The later the flight, the less traffic there is. So because of that, the controller can now clear us down to the next level, 2,000 feet, which will be the final altitude assignment before we're cleared for the runway 22 approach.
Delta 2139, set to maintain 2000.
Set to maintain 2000, Delta 2139.
Way back over New Jersey, an American flight is cleared to 4,000.
American 1171, set to maintain 4000.
Maintain 4000, American 1171.
The dark area down in the middle is Bronx Park, which is in the middle of the Bronx. We just have a little more to go before we turn right. The airport is just below the wing. We'll need to make a U-turn to get there and line up with runway 22. On the left, we can see Long Island Sound. We won't be seeing this on final approach as it will be on the other side of the plane. Behind us is another Delta flight, and the controller is now going to tell him to reduce his speed.
Delta 1749, reduce speed to 180.
So 180 does, 17.9.
I don't know why, but it seems like many years ago the approach controller would have us turn by now. These days, we always seem to go out just a bit further than we used to. Today, we'll be flying a visual approach to the runway. There will be no traffic to follow, so it seems to me that we could have made the turn earlier. In any case, the controller is about to issue us approach clearance. We'll be asked to turn right to a heading of 140 degrees and report the field in sight.
Delta 2139, turn right heading 140 and advise when you get to field.
Right, 140 and airport's in sight, Delta 2139.
Delta 2139, clearance approach runway 22, the tower's 18.7, good night.
Alright, cleared visual 22, we'll head over to tower, Delta 2139. Good night.
Let's check in with the tower. I'm pretty sure we'll get cleared to land right away. There's no one in front of us.
Tower Delta 2139, visual 22.
Delta 2139, LaGuardia 12006, runway 22, clear to land.
22, clear to land, Delta 2139.
We are cleared to land on runway 22 with light winds and are making the final turn around the northeast Bronx and Pelham Manor to line up with the extended center line for runway 22. Manhattan is way in the distance. The airspace and runway ahead of us are ours. If this were a busy period, we'd hear a lot on the tower frequency, and each time a plane lands on runway 22, the tower would issue a plane takeoff clearance on runway 13, but there's zero departure demand at this late hour. There are only arrivals to LaGuardia, which will remain overnight at the field rather than turn around for another flight. If you heard the wind degrees from the tower, he said that the winds are 200 at 6. That's definitely a headwind for us, but it actually favors runway 31 as the departure runway. However, the winds are really light at the moment, so 13 is being kept as the active departure runway. How do I know runway 13 is the departure runway? Well, we flew west of the airport instead of east of the airport on the downwind leg. Flying west allows planes to climb off of runway 13 to the east, or it could be that runway 133 when it's closed altogether and all traffic is departing in runway 22, which will turn to the left to the east, keeping runway 22 arrivals to fly west of the airport. By this point, we're still not precisely lined up with the runway. There's still a small right-hand turn to be made once the aircraft is 100% over the extended center line. This turn will come soon. We're now flying over Pelham Bay Park. That's the dark area at the bottom of the screen. It's in the Bronx and is the largest park in New York City. Almost all runway 22 arrivals fly over Pelham Bay Park before they land. We'll be on the ground soon. For the remainder of the flight, we'll get a great low-altitude view of the eastern side of the Bronx. Passengers on the other side of the plane will see Long Island Sound and City Island with a few areas on the Bronx's mainland's shore. While on final approach, we'll fly over the East River. Many people don't know that the East River not only runs against the east side of Manhattan, but it also separates the Bronx from Queens too. So for this flight, we actually get to see most of the East River. Since we flew over Manhattan on that 30-degree heading, we got to see how it runs along Manhattan's east side, and soon we'll be seeing the part of it separating the Bronx from Queens. The first few thousand feet of runway 22 actually juts out into the East River, so we'll be over the river all the way to touchdown. We're now looking down Pelham Parkway in the Bronx, which runs along the middle of the Bronx on its east side about halfway into the borough. The north-south road is I-95, which we actually flew over when we took off from Palm Beach. We're paralleling I-95 right now, but it will be under this plane in a moment. It will eventually head back to the west toward the George Washington Bridge toward New Jersey. By the way, the George Washington Bridge was visible to passengers on the left side of this plane just after we passed by Yankee Stadium. They got to see the Hudson River. I guess the best seat in the plane tonight was in the cockpit. It's got to be a thrill to fly over those buildings. But we should always enjoy where we are. Like now. In the middle of the screen, we're paralleling a line that has occasional long strips of light on it. That's part of the New York City elevated train system. That's the 6 train, and the orange strips of lights are the various stations that it makes stops at. The line leads to Manhattan, where it continues in true subway fashion underground. The people on the train won't get to see the tall buildings, just like we didn't. Boy, is this tower frequency quiet. Well, that's about to change. Remember back on the approach control frequency we heard Delta Flight 1749? That plane had been issued a 30-degree heading like us and was told to reduce to 180 knots. Since leaving the last frequency, we missed the approach controller providing approach clearance to that flight, and it has been handed off to the tower now for landing clearance. Here's Delta 1749 on the tower frequency.
Delta 1749, Greco visual 22.
So 1749, number 2, calling company 319 on the 2-mile final, runway 22 clear land, 2107.
22, number 2, clear land, Delta 1749.
The tower told Delta 1749 that he's following a company A319 on a 2-mile final. That's us, an A319 of the same company 2 miles out for runway 22. So 2 Delta planes are on the approach to the airport at the moment. We're close to the runway and are about to fly over the East River. Let's land on the 7,000-foot long runway 22.
So 2139, 2 left and contact ground when you guys are clear.
Sorry, say that again.
2 left, contact ground, clear.
2 left, we'll contact ground, Delta 2139.
The controller is having us make 2 lefts off the runway and switching us over to ground control. I'll end ATC here, but it's time for the flight attendant's welcome announcement.
Welcome to New York's LaGuardia Airport, where the local time is 10:46. Please stay seated with your seatbelt fastened and carry items stowed until the captain has turned off the seatbelt sign. Be careful when opening overhead bins to avoid injury from items that may have shifted during flight, and ensure you have all of your personal belongings before deplaning. As a return gate, we invite you to use the Fly Delta app for important baggage and connecting information. You may receive an email asking you to share your feedback. We value your feedback and use your responses to improve your future travel experiences. On behalf of this Dallas-Fort Worth-based crew, thank you for choosing Delta, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.
We had a super fast taxi to Terminal C. As I mentioned, there were no departures to cause bottlenecks, and our flight deck crew seemed to put the pedal to the metal to get to the gate. I can't remember the last time we moved this quickly on the ground at LaGuardia. This is unedited footage. Well, thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope that you enjoyed my flight from PBI to LGA. I was disappointed in the fact that we flew right over Manhattan and I didn't get that spectacular view, but I made sure that I made the most out of my flight like I do with all of my flights. And I hope that the next time you fly, you can do so too. Well, again, it was so great to be with you today, and if you haven't done so already, I invite you to click on the subscribe button, hit the bell button, hit the like button, and remember that I'll be back very soon with another video just like this.